Shalom, shalom. First and foremost, I'd like to give all praises, glory, and honor to Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai, Ba'ashem Rakakadash. Double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone for teaching us his truth, and salutations to the sincere Akim and Aqua that may listen. May the blessing of election be over your house. My name is Brother Raquai. I'm back in here with a quick, hopefully, Hawrataza and edifying lesson. And for today's lesson is going to be a bit of an exhortation. And it reads, the red pill is a catalyst to return to the scriptures, right? And this is a comment I heard, just going through a couple of videos from the elder in Dallas, Elder Ariala, shalom to you, brother. And I thought it was a very interesting statement, because when you watch a lot of these content, and when I say red pill, let me just clarify this. The red pill, I'm talking about, the so-called manosphere, where you have all these men talking about like game and riz and how to conduct yourself as a man in this society, because what a lot of men are waking up to realize that this modern society and then having women up on a pedestal is not serving them well, and there is there's a shift going on here, right? With the with you men, and you have men waking up and they realize they're trying to reclaim their manhood. They're trying to establish themselves. They're trying to go back. Essentially what they're saying is going back to the ancient ways of the way things were, right? But through the philosophies of Babylon that's been pushing on this place, like feminism and the Planned Parenthood, they support, and all these different devices that Satan has laid out. One thing that they've noticed that it's not conducive to a productive society, right? So let me just grab this scripture really quickly, and I'll expound as I go on, right? So this is Jeremiah chapter 6, verse 16, and it reads, thus saith the Lord Yahweh, stand ye in the ways and see, and ask for the old paths. Where is the good way? And walk therein, and ye shall find rest for your souls. But they said, we will not walk therein, right? So this is very important because, this is the old path of the way things were, in I believe it's First Corinthians 11, where it talks about the order of the way things are. For the head of every man is Hamashiach Yahweh Shai, and the head of every woman is the man, right? And the head of Yahweh Shai is the Most High Yahweh, right? Right, and that is the divine order and the way things were created. That is the order of things, right? Everybody has their position to play, right? And in this society, it has shown people that it is not conducive to righteousness. It is just conducive for destruction, right? And this is what a lot of men are waking up to. So they're realizing, oh man, this is not the way things are, right? But this is just a catalyst. As a matter of fact, let me grab that word really quickly. Okay, so here it says catalyst, and it says a person. The point I want to get here is says a person or a thing that precipitates an event, right? So it's something that is essentially a thing or an action that's occurring, that is pushing towards something else, right? So this is what this whole red pill community on YouTube is actually talking about. This is essentially, this is what they're doing, right? But they don't have the full understanding, right? So this is just a catalyst. When you look at these things, you look at it with like your spiritual eye salve, and you realize the only way to restructure the society is for Yahushua to actually put this place not upside down, but flip it and promote righteousness upon the earth, right? That's the only way, right? Because this society is not conducive towards righteousness. Rather than it's just it's just breeding wickedness, right? Let's get and now this is just leaving a lot of men disgruntled and fed up. They realize that there's too much expectation on them, and so on and so forth. Okay, this is Revelation chapter 18, verse 3. And it reads, "For all the nations have drunk of the wine of the wrath of horror fornication, and the kings of the earth have committed fornication with her. And the merchants of the earth are waxed rich through the abundance of her delicacies." Right, so that her is referring to the whore, right, and that whore is America, right, and that wine is all these different examples of philosophies that a lot of these men are fed up with, right, and some of these examples include, but they're not limited to feminism, um, that divine feminine mindset, you know, and the list goes on, right? Democracy, the alphabet lifestyle, all these different things that are just laying out that are just being spread in this place, to the point where a lot of the other nations are starting to wake up and they're fed up with this nonsense, right? Oh, actually, let me read verse 4. And this is very important as well, And I've heard a great voice from heaven saying, "Come out of her, my people, that ye be not partakers of her sins," right? So this is going towards a lot of these men that are, um these Israelite men that are, that watch these content makers and so on and so forth, and to realize this is just something to bring you back to Yahweh Bashim Yahweh Shai, right? Because the Yahweh Bashim Yahweh Shai is the only person that can actually issue forth righteousness and set things back in order, right? Let everything be done in decency and order, right? So let's get Second Ezra's. Okay, let me start at 13. And this is Second Ezra chapter 14, verse 13, and it reads, "Now therefore set thine house in order, and reprove thy people, and comfort such of them as be in trouble, and renounce corruption," right? So this is the spirit, that a lot of these uh supposed, and I say that very loosely, they're starting to re- renounce the philosophies of these things, right? But this is really the spirit that has been placed on our apostles and elders on down, right? And this is bringing us truly and deeply and fully back into that stead of what it's like to actually be a man, and inquiring the ways of our forefathers, right? So these things are very, very important, because for myself, I'll use myself as an example. Like in the world, I used to watch a lot of these like heavy, I used to watch a lot of these content makers a lot, and it's always trying to fix up your appearance, and it always focuses on the okay, you have to get this like a nice belt, and your haircut has to be on point, you need to have a nice fit, and truly, in moderation, these things are not bad things, but what Yahweh Bashim Yahweh Shai is really truly offering is a way of righteousness and actually rinsing out your mind. Really, that's really where it starts, right? And that is the part that a lot of our people are completely neglecting, right? They're focusing too much on the outward appearance, right? The fancy vehicle, the what else did they talk about? Oh, the six-figure salary, the nice house, the six-pack abs, and so on and so forth. But if you get too caught up in these things, right, you realize these things are simply just vain, right? Rather than actually learning the ways of Yahweh Bashim Yahweh Shai and pleasing the Lord, right? Being that sweet smelling savor, right? Verse 14, and it reads, let go from thee mortal thoughts, and cast away the burdens of man, and put off the weak nature, and set aside the thoughts that are most heavy unto thee, and haste thee and flee thee from these times, right? And these times are very, very evil, right? So what is very important as well is actually having and establishing boundaries, right? Because when you set up a standard and you come into the knowledge of who you are, you start to realize that this place is filthy and wicked, right? So you start to renounce a lot of the wicked things that are constantly being pushed in this society, right? Verse 16, and it reads, for yet greater evils than those which thou hast seen happen shall be done thereafter, right? And what is constantly I've noticed as well is this when they have a lot of these male content creators, they create all this content talking about the so-called modern woman, and you have the women, they're talking about the man, and so on and so forth. It's kind of like you have both sexes on either side of the dance room, and nobody's talking to each other. But this is really this is part of the greater evils as well, because this is really and truly what these elites want, and this is all part of their NWO, right? Because if you have a society that is not promoting righteousness, and it's not promoting men and women actually getting together, to have sex and bring forth children and bring forth families and raise them up in the culture, right? To be cultured citizens of Israel, right? When you have that, then it's that's what they don't want. They want us to be polarized, and we're not able to reproduce as a society, right? So all of that is just part of the tenets of the NWO, essentially, right? Verse 17, and it reads, for look how much the world shall be weaker through age, as much the more shall evils increase upon them that dwell therein, right? And then we see that a lot more and more, because the evils are increasing. You see the more that alphabet lifestyle being pushed, and it's now being trickled down into the elementary schools, Salakia. It's being pushed onto other countries as well, in different parts of like I'm from the Caribbean, and it's been heavy being pushed there as well. I had a family member recently said that countries like Canada, I believe, I haven't looked into this, but if the spirit impresses you to look into this, I had a family member told me that Trudeau was offering money to some of the smaller countries in the islands, to actually promote and push forth this, LGBTQ alphabet lifestyle in the islands, right? So so these are part of the greater evils, and eventually they want to actually put an electronic tag inside of you, right? They want to control you, right? They want you to be just robots, property, right? And people who cannot reproduce and have families, right? So this is these are all part of the greater evils that are being prepped slowly, as these days go by, right? So It's one account before I just want to bring out really quickly. I don't think I want to get through all these different precepts, but let me just bring out this account in Second Samuel, because the scriptures cover, the ways of how a man should be, the conduct, how you should treat um your own brethren, your family. It gives you morals, and it gives you conduct, and it keeps you upright. you know um let's see. Oh, it's Second Samuel 6. As a matter of fact, 1 second, let me get it in the. I just want to bring out this account as well because I thought this was very interesting, and this is something that a lot of these red pill content makers, they constantly talk about. You know, how a man should have boundaries, and how they should treat their woman, right? Let's see. Okay, so the heading here, it says McCall's contempt for David, and McCall was the first wife of David. So he acquired her after his slewing of Goliath. Okay, I'm just going to start at 20 and I want to read down to 23, but I'm going to read it in the NLT. Okay, so here it says, verses 2 Samuel chapter 6, verse 20. And it reads, when David returned home to bless his own family, Michal, the daughter of Saul, came out to meet him and said in disgust, how distinguished the king of Israel looked today, shamelessly exposing himself to the servant girls like any other vulgar person might do. And as a matter of fact, just give me 1 second. Let me just read verse 16 just to provide some context. And here it says, but as the ark of the Lord Yahweh entered the city of David, Michal, the daughter of Saul, looked down from the window, and when she saw King David leaping and dancing before the Lord, she was filled with contempt for him. Right? So you have a man that is in his righteous order, who is showing himself to be praising the Lord, right? Because a lot of these Israelites that are out there, they're not in that stead. They're out of order. And I'm saying that because they're focused on praising the woman, right? And I just quoted earlier the order of things. The head of every man is in Mashiach Yahushai, and the head of every woman is the man, right? So you have a man who is after the Most High's heart and is keeping him upright, right? So let's jump down to verse 20. Okay, I'll read verse 20 again. And when David returned home to bless his own family, Michal, the daughter of Saul, came out to meet him and said in disgust, how distinguished the king of Israel looked today, shamelessly exposing himself to the servant girls like any other vulgar person might do, right? So here it's very interesting because you have a man who's after the Most High's heart, and he's showing his praise, his glory. Like every time we open up a lesson, we always say all praises to Yahweh Bashem Yahweh Shai, right? And this is very interesting because it's not it is it's a complete contrast to a lot of these men in the world, right? They don't praise the Lord, right? They glory in their riches, they glory in their biceps, they glory in whatever whatever riches they have, right? But But here you have a king who's praising the Lord, right? Who's taking him through all these trials and tribulations. And then when he comes up against the enemy, the Lord Yahweh Bashim El Shai is still with him, right? So let me just wrap this up really quickly. And verse 21, it reads, David retorted to Michal, and it says, I was dancing before the Lord Yahweh, who chose me above your family and all his family. He appointed me as leader of Israel and people of the Lord Yahweh. So I celebrate before the Lord. Right. This is very, very interesting because it's kind of like a woman. Just imagine that yourself, you're a woman, not a woman, sorry, Salakia. You're with a woman, and she is she's kind of condemning you for some of the things that you might do, right? And what David is doing here is respectfully checking her, right? Like checking that that mouth, because sometimes they would say things that are kind of like in disgust, right? And then you have to actually, essentially, what David is doing is putting her in her place, right? And this is one of the things that the red pill content makers love to talk about, right? One thing that makes you a man is having boundaries and having women, put in their place when they're trying to step out of line, right? So this is exactly the dynamic that you see here between Michal and King David, right? Verse 22, and it reads, yes, I am willing to look before I'm willing to look even more foolish than this, even to be humiliated in my own eyes. But those servant girls you mentioned will indeed think I am disgusted. In verse 23, it reads, so Michal, the daughter of Saul, remained childless throughout her entire life, right? So I just wanted to bring that out because, the scriptures do cover these things as well, right? And it gives you that example of, how to, respectfully, you know, uh, uh, they would say, check your woman, put your woman back in her place, right? Because, the Most High didn't choose Michal. The Most High was dealing with King David, right? And then through his efforts, after he defeated Goliath, you know he was rewarded, and he got Saul, right? Not Saul, he got Michal, Saul's daughter, right? So anyways, I just wanted to bring out those couple things, because that's one of the things the red pill talks about. But all these different principles that they love to discuss are all written back in the scriptures, right? So really and truly, and this is for Israelites, who are listening to these red pill content creators, the only way is to come back to Yahweh Bashem Yahushai. But anyways, hopefully this video was edifying. Sorry, I didn't mean to make this too long. But I just like to give all praises, glory, and honor to Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahushai, Ba'ashem Rakakdash. Double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone for teaching us his truth. Till next time, I say Shalom.